I recognize, like the other speakers, that I am the last obstacle to drinks and the Country Music Hall of Fame. So I will try to be brief, and I appreciate your patience, but I'm so happy to be here with you today to talk about the work that we're doing at Giving Compass. I'm Brandolon Barnett. I'm the head of Innovation and Philanthropy at Giving Compass, and whenever I have the privilege of being on a stage like this, I'm always reminded of the many journeys that we've all taken to get to this space of social impact and philanthropy. And really, that's what I want to talk to you about today. Very simply, that journey. Because as individuals who work in this space, we might not always see it this way, but the journey that we took to be here today, talking about donor advised funds and the future of how people give back, is a manifestation of something broader that we all experience and that we at Giving Compass care really deeply about, and that is the donor journey. And so in our view at Giving Compass, anyone's donor journey begins with white space, followed by awareness. It ends with advocacy, and in between there are moments of learning and exploration, as well as giving back. This is the donor journey as we see it. And each step is part of a broader journey toward making a meaningful impact in the world. What I really do like to think of as navigating a complex landscape that you can almost imagine in the abstract as hundreds of cause areas, as mountain ranges, deserts, and oceans with millions of nonprofits and funds and volunteer opportunities as the mountains, the oases, or the islands that populate that world. And to us at Giving Compass, that journey isn't an abstraction, it's a real, measurable, and shareable experience. And to demonstrate, I'm going to start by just talking a little bit about my own journey. And so I'll start with awareness. I say this all the time. The first and most important thing anyone needs to know about me is I am a massive, massive nerd. I grew up and was inspired at a very young age by the worlds of Star Trek and the work of writers like Arthur C. Clarke and Isaac Asimov, and these visions of these futures that can seem ridiculous sometimes, especially in times like today. But those visions, those images, they didn't just entertain me, they inspired me. They made me truly aware of the stark contrast between these utopian futures and the everyday challenges my single mother and I face. And that awareness sparked something in me. I knew that I wanted to be part of making the world better. And that awareness, it really gave me a desire to give back. But like many donor advised fund holders and donors, I had to ask, how? And that's where I moved on to that next and more complex phase of the donor journey, which is exploration and planning. In other words, it was time for me to explore. So here you see a much younger me in Thailand. And for some people, exploration might have called for a search online for some charities or volunteer opportunities, maybe read a few articles. But for me, I told you I was a massive nerd, so I literally thought to myself, Captain Picard could never change your world by never leaving the bridge of the USS Enterprise. That is completely absurd, right? So, of course, I have to go out and see and understand the world that I wanted to be part of, helping to change in positive ways. And I had to do that despite having very little means to do so. So after college, I took an internship and a job with an organization called Global, where I helped to build international volunteering programs. I traveled to Costa Rica, Laos, Ghana, Thailand, and each place taught me something about the realities and challenges faced by different communities across the world. But also the logistical challenges. I had no idea of what goes into the sheer act of trying to make a difference, right? And I remember some experiences were tough. I had very little resources, right? So at one point I'm in Thailand and I'm getting some money out of an ATM and an elephant walks behind me. And of course I turned to look. I've never seen anything like that in my life. As I turn back, my ATM card with all the money in the world that I have is sliding back in the machine. And just like that, I'm all the way across the world, $30 to my name, don't know the language, don't know anyone. Experiences like this as part of my exploration were a really powerful reminder that doing good isn't always easy, right? It requires a lot of sacrifice. So I was learning, and after my time abroad, I wanted to continue this exploration, right? I thought about how media had ignited my imagination and had this big impact on me, and I thought, what if I could be part of doing the same for others? So I took a job as an assistant producer for the public affairs show Think. Still airs today on 142 NPR affiliates across the country. And I tried to continue to learn and explore. I met great generals, Pulitzer Prize winners. I remember sitting with the late director Morgan Spurlock and talking about fast food, running through the halls of the station with an undersecretary general for the UN who was extremely late but had to use the bathroom even though we were already on the air. And all these sorts of experiences were great and I loved them, but I really thought maybe there's something else. So I thought government service might be the way. So to continue the Star Trek theme, I really thought, well, Captain Kirk, Picard, they were government officials actually. So what if I tried a different path? And so I took the foreign service exams and I actually passed all the exams. It was a pretty incredible experience. And I started waiting eagerly for my final security clearance. I thought I'd found my impact, my way to change the world. And while I waited, I went back to the NGO I was with. Here you see me working with local community members and volunteers in Jamaica. And I made a decision that I still wanted to prioritize helping others find their way to good and be inspired, just like I've been. So in my second stint there, I created a scholarship program to enable underprivileged youth to experience travel and work, a mini Peace Corps, we called it, abroad. And you see me here with some of the recipients of the scholarship, and I, of course, have to point out my long, luxurious dreadlocks. That is no longer possible for me. But, of course, life, as it does, threw challenges my way again. And after over a year and a half of waiting, I got final word that I'd been denied my final clearance. They said I had too much student loan debt. And so there I am, back to the drawing board, right? I want to be part of changing the world. This is the mindset that many donors have, but I still don't know how. I went to grad school in London, trying to figure it out, going on this journey of exploration. But as I was doing all this, absorbed in myself, after a little over a year, I came back home, and I found that my mother had grown incredibly ill. The blood vessels would burst in her eyes, her feet would swell to 3 times their normal size. She'd have issues breathing and thinking clearly. And I shepherded her from doctor to doctor, treating each symptom really like whack-a-mole. We all know the US healthcare system. And I remember one day telling her excitedly, hey, I got a raise, and she was laying in the hospital bed in the afternoon light, and she said, between labored breaths, she's very proud of me. She said, get a gift for your girlfriend, and went to sleep. And I finally found a coordinating physician who told me that my mother had actually been told 5 years before that she was going to die. And she kept it from me that whole time. I knew that she had kept that secret from me, knowing that if she had told me, I would have walked away from a lot of my ambitions, a lot of this exploration I was doing. And I felt so many emotions swirling, right, as you can imagine. But hey, I was doing a little bit better. I had that hope that she and all those imaginary worlds had nurtured in me, that hope that I could change something, that I could do something, that I could save her. So I arranged for care, but unfortunately she passed away just a week later. And so it's been a long and hard journey for me to become educated as a donor, right? All of these experiences are part of that, and I definitely made it harder on myself at times. But getting confidently past exploration and planning to the give back phase of my donor journey, a place wherein I or any donor is able to think about the change I want to see in the world and the ways I want to try to drive that change strategically and what steps I can take. It's taken a really long time for my donor journey, all of this to translate into my donor style. And I'm sure the same can be said for many of you and for many DAF holders, right? And for me today, I break down my way to good and impact into 4 distinct buckets. First, I believe strongly in supporting small local nonprofits of the type that helped me and my mother. And that's why I'm proud to serve on the board of Spur Local in Washington, D.C., formerly the Catalog for Philanthropy. Since 2003, the organization has connected thousands of donors and volunteers, hundreds of small DC area community nonprofits, raising more than $57 million to support their work, and playing a central role in helping more than 50 of those organizations increase their budgets to over $4 million a year. Second, travel through work and study abroad inspired me to think about the world and how to make it better in new ways. That's what drew me into the idea of innovation in this space. And that's why I'm proud to volunteer as a trustee on the board of World Learning, a global study abroad provider that every year helps over 50,000 students experience study abroad across over 50 active exchange and development programs across 9 countries. And third, I have felt, you may sense a little bit, deep loneliness and despair, personal issues, and so I founded and am CEO of a social enterprise called the Regular App that now helps people across the country come together to find friendship and community through simple things like karaoke and trivia. And last year, we brought together over 4,000 people through over 600 events across 60 engaged small businesses, bars, and venues in 6 cities. In the process, supporting those small businesses and their social impact and bringing in customers on slow nights. And I believe that giving back needs to be accessible, right? So we started a socially, or rather fiscally sponsored initiative called Going Out for Good, where we've asked thousands to give to and engage with local charities on site at those events. And finally, most importantly for today, I believe that people who want to give back and make the world better should be more included in the space of philanthropy. And that starts with having someone to ask. And so I'm proud to serve as head of innovation and philanthropy at Giving Compass, as well as a board observer. And every month, 100,000 people visit givingcompass.org, and they come to read over 40,000 articles, donor education content utilized by our donor advised fund partners and others, and explore all of the different ways that they can learn to not just give, but give effectively. We offer them the ability to search for funds, and we're starting to use new innovations like AI to make search easier than ever before. And so that brings me to the last phase of the donor journey, which is advocacy, right? Because that's what brings people like me to these stages, and that's the point at which we unlock a lot of value from donor advised fund holders and other donors who become people who create movements like some of the movements you've seen here today. And so that brings me to our big idea. And it really is about one simple phrase. The story I just told you, I don't know why I said story, I told you I'm a little under the weather. But the story I just told you, the real point is that it should be easier, right? That journey that donors go on between awareness and advocacy, it can be easier. And our view at Giving Compass is that the donor journey is broken. Users or donors are able to find guidance and inspiration in many forms, just like I did. They're able to access and get information about organizations, but that information lives in disparate places. When they find that information, it's difficult for them to know what to trust. And all of that is powered by things like simple keyword search, which, if we look at how search and technology is changing around us, is an antiquated way to find information. They have some tools to define what they want to achieve and some understanding there, but then they struggle to access anything that can help them track and plan that giving. And that includes limited tools for supporting learning and philanthropic advice. And then they have tools for advocacy. Not all of them are perfect, but all of these things live in disparate systems, right? You have to go over here to find volunteer opportunities, over here to find nonprofits, over here to find funds, etc. And our big idea is simply to streamline this journey, to create an environment where it's easy to find guidance and inspiration, where it's easy to get access to information about organizations, where it's easy to know how to trust what you have discovered, powered by artificial intelligence and new tools that are more dynamic, as well as, I didn't realize I had that in my ear, as well as the ability to find organizations that you can trust and know that you're trusting them, to define and achieve your goals, to track and plan your giving, all of that supported by things like flexible donor effectiveness scores and accessible gamification that makes giving and the education around giving more exciting, and then the ability to advocate and providing all of these tools through one API. And so where do we start on this journey? Well, we started with research. And specifically, we wanted to imagine a world where people who were suffering from isolation could have someone to ask, not just about the specific issue they see in front of them, but also about the systemic causes of that issue, the root causes. We wanted to build a world where you could imagine someone seeing warfare and not having to scream into the ether, what can I do? But having someone to ask, even if they don't have access to a philanthropic advisor or know what that is. We wanted to imagine a world where if people saw images of injustice, they could go and find nonprofits, but also find articles on that issue, all in one place and one space. And the first thing we wanted to do was study how people learn and recognize that the way people want to learn is changing. And so we engaged in a study, the first of which was a study of 88 donors, 39 women and 49 men, Ages 25 to 72, average age of 44, all with DAFs. 63% in fact use DAFs to make their most recent donation. I invite you to use the QR code to study the report, it's free. And what we found was a few things. We found that for many donors, they defined impact differently, but impact largely, they used a definition of impact that really captured the idea of strategic giving. The biggest finding that we had was that viewing a brief 40-second video increased donation readiness by 15%. And we found a causal relationship. Just viewing a brief video increased donation readiness, the moment at which a donor is ready to move in their donor journey from learning to, hey, I'm ready to give a donation, by 15%. And that was even amongst seasoned donors. The way people learn is changing, and donor education, the way we talk about giving and learning to give effectively, needs to change along with it. So we have built a tool that we call our Guide to Good. It has the ability to go in, and I invite you to go to givingcompass.org now. It's in open beta, check it out. You can ask for a charity or a cause. You can ask it questions like, what is a donor advised fund and what can I do with it? You can ask questions, for example, like, what is a giving circle? And we want to build one tool that allows for that all in one place. And so I'd ask three things of you today. When you're thinking about this story or stories like it and whether they resonate with you, the first question is, can you learn how your donors want to learn? Because learning is changing, right? And if you want them to give and continue to give with all these changes we've heard about today, we need to recognize that and think about the means of learning. Second, have generally a donor education mindset, where we're thinking not just about asking a donor to give, but to think about the vehicles of giving, the means of giving in more sophisticated ways, and we're making that easier for them, that process of search and discovery, that process of exploration and planning that took me to some really weird, bad, and sometimes great places, right? And then finally, I always say engage inclusively. If we do donor education right, we can close the gap of how many people know about tools like donor advised funds, how many people know about the kind of work that's represented at convenings like this. And together, we can grow the pool of people who are driving change in our communities. And so that's it for me today. I know we want to get to the happy hour. I definitely am looking for a drink, but I want you to invite you to check out my book. If you want to hear more of my story, check us out at givingcompass.org. Follow me on social, happy to continue the conversation. And I just want to thank all of you for your time today. Thank you.